Hey everyone, sometimes we get calls here at the Property Revolution office and the person on the other end of the phone will have a story about how they hired someone else to do their project, typically something that we would do, roofing, siding, or their deck, or their fence, and the project got away from them or went sideways, or the project is completed and the person has concerns about the work that was done. And we'll get asked often, hey, can you come take a look at this work? Or can you get me out of this situation? Can you help me get this project back on track? So there's a number of reasons that a project can go sideways or get out of hand. And one of those reasons is just poor planning. Sometimes people are newer to the business and they kind of get in over their head with a project. Oftentimes we see incorrect pricing. It's really tempting to want to go with the cheapest quote for something. And my advice would be to make sure that if you're going with the cheapest quote, make sure that it's including everything that you want to see in your project in detail. If you get a piece of paper quote that just says replace deck $6,000, I mean, it doesn't really say what you're getting for that. And a lot of times when we see projects that have gone awry, it's because there was just either poor pricing or unclear expectations set. So unclear expectations is really the biggest problem most of the time. And most of the time I get involved in those types of scenarios, I'm hearing the phrase, well, I just assumed. And I just assumed a lot of things that this contractor was going to do for me. But technically and legally, in their quote, it may have not been included, but the contract was just really vague. And it was priced low, which sounded great, but didn't necessarily include everything that you wanted. Other times, projects go sideways just because there's a bad fit between the customer and the contractor. Maybe the communication isn't the style that one party prefers or the other, or one of the parties is not very flexible with the other. And so sometimes we see where there's just a bad fit between the contractor and the client. So I would ask yourself, if you're in a situation and you're having a hard time with your contractor, like, am I doing my part as the client to be communicating clearly and talking through expectations and being professional about the way I'm communicating with the person I'm working with? And like I said, the other big thing that we see all the time is just generally misaligned expectations. You have this vision of how you think this project's going to unfold. You've been thinking about this for a while, and it's sort of like when you're dating and you're going to get married, you have all these dreams about what that's going to look like. Well, you have all these dreams for your project, and then the contractor shows up and it just isn't quite what you thought it would be, and it's easy to feel discontented with that. Oftentimes we see that those agreements between those parties weren't really clear as to exactly what was supposed to be done or how it was supposed to look in the end. I've been called out to a number of scenarios that kind of meet all those different kinds of situations. There's one that sticks out in my mind. I remember going and looking at this metal roof job that a client had done by another installer, and it looked really, really poor. It was really bad. And then I asked her what she'd been charged, and she'd been charged $1,000 to do the entire roof if she paid for material. That pricing just isn't really realistic. And unfortunately, she hired someone who wasn't equipped or prepared to do that job. So first, if you're moving into a new project with someone, I would just like to recommend asking yourself, hey, does everything make sense here, and is everything that I want outlined? And if you find yourself in the midst of a situation with what you think is a bad contractor, we'd be happy to help talk you through that. But first, we're going to recommend trying to work things out with the contractor you're working with now. If they've abandon the project and it's just not moving forward, oftentimes we can come in and get things squared away and continue to move forward. But really, if you're in a situation with a bad contractor, your goal should be to work things out with them first. We'd be happy to kind of talk you through that. I hope this helps. Really, we like to see everybody have a successful experience, even if it's with someone else. Hope this is a helpful video for everybody if you're struggling with a contractor that you're working with on your home. Thank you.